welcome Nakul Duggal, Senior Vice President and General Manager, Qualcomm.
Good afternoon, folks. Great to be here. Fantastic turnout. I'm here to talk about automotive with my dear friend, Ned Kurek, CTO of Stellantis. Please give him a warm applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I need to turn this so I can face you a little bit. So we're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so just chatting about the automotive industry. It's a fascinating space. There is a lot that Qualcomm is doing, but it is really an industry that is going through a tremendous amount of transformation. And I think we are right at the beginning, actually. So many, many things to talk about, but what I'll try and do over the next, over the minutes that we have in front of us is maybe to try and get you a sense of Ned, his experiences in the auto industry, experiences at Stellantis. Maybe we start there. Ned, why don't you give us a view of your journey in automotive? How did you get into this industry, the background that you've had, and the time you've spent at Stellantis?
Yeah, thanks, Nakul. Great to be here. Thanks for having me here, and it's always good to see you. And Nakul and I go way back, actually, when Qualcomm didn't have anything to do with automotive, and Nakul started something quite extraordinary. I was at Toyota at the time and started this automotive business, and look at where Qualcomm is in automotive business. So congratulations, Nakul, to you and your team and Qualcomm for a quite amazing journey, and where you sort of put Qualcomm on the map, really, in the automotive industry. So, almost 30 years of technology experience. I'm not a traditional automotive guy. I didn't grow up through automotive world. Came here as an immigrant, did some additional education, started with TRW, Northrop Grumman, moved to Microsoft, and that's where I first time got introduced to essentially automotive business through Microsoft, and sort of on the periphery on automotive business. Microsoft was they had their own operating system and sort of participated in automotive world. And then spent more than a decade in Microsoft, got recruited by Toyota to be the CTO for one division, and very shortly then after for larger Toyota North America. And then we found, we created this Toyota Connected, and that's where you and I met. And so now it's quite successful enterprise at Toyota. Then I went to Amazon. I got recruited heavily to come in Amazon and start their automotive business, and almost 5 years at Amazon, build lots of stuff, and the team that I built is building some amazing technology that's going to get launched here, this year, next 10 years. So I'm really happy on that part of the journey, and then joined recently Stellantis to help Stellantis change and accelerate the change. You mentioned the automotive world is changing so rapidly. No one knows where it's going to end up. It's a journey, but it's a pretty exciting journey.
That's great. As we have engaged in the auto industry, and we've been doing automotive for 20 plus years, but the last 5 years have been very different, because we see obviously a lot of competition from a lot of newer players come in, Tesla, NIO, XPeng, who really don't have any legacy in terms of architectures, in terms of thought process, no combustion engine background. And they're building platforms that are really a software first, cloud native architectures, thinking about experiences in the car that are very much the identity of the automaker. And we are, of course, working with many of the largest automakers on the planet, including yourselves. Stellantis is a recent merger of two very large companies. What are some of the big opportunities that you see as you bring together the FCA teams and the PSA teams together in the middle of all of the changes that are happening?
Yeah, this is a great question. On a sort of competitors, I think it's a phenomenal thing to have a competition. I remember when I was in Microsoft, Microsoft had like a 9% of market segment share for browsers, Internet Explorer, or 98%, or something ridiculous. And then then we were lazy, and then competition came through, Mozilla and a couple other Netscape and Mozilla and a couple other places and Chrome. And it was the best thing that happened to Microsoft because it really sort of pushed them super hard to reinvent, and it was great for the customers. Ultimately, it's all about the customers. It's not about us. It's not about the companies that build products. It's about customers who use the products. And so competition is always welcome, and it's always pushes everyone to be better. So that's on that. And so if why I took a job as Stellantis, and why the FCA and PSA is a sort of merger is a winning, merger as far as I'm concerned, is because both companies have some amazing brands. So if you look at from FCA perspective, Jeep is incredible vehicle, incredible brand, deep heritage. The success that the Dodge has experienced last 10 years, for example, Ram, a relatively new brand, but it's got a heritage of Dodge. And so just success story. And then on top of it there's this Chrysler. We have now opportunity to really restart Chrysler, to what used to be. Then the PSA, I forgot Fiat, of course, and Alfa Romeo on FCA side.
Maserati.
Yeah, and the Maserati, the amazing premium Italian brand. And then on the PSA side, you have also deep heritage with Citroën and Peugeot, and the DS is now getting revived. And so together, for different regions, the mix of products is actually quite amazing. And so you can serve the customers in the different segments with fewer platforms, but deliver different experiences, because now you can tune the platforms, you can tune experiences for a particular market segment that you're targeting. So I think that is a phenomenal opportunity for us to be present everywhere in the world with our brands, with our vehicles. The trick is going to be to integrate the platforms, to simplify the platforms, and then yet to be able to deliver different experience for different market segments. And so that's what we're doing at the moment, planning and building for the future.
One of the things that we've seen over the last 5 years or so is as automakers expand their in-house capability in terms of being able to do design, do software development, move a lot of decision-making internally, where they would have relied on a traditional supply chain for those similar decisions. We are finding that, of course, the size of the opportunity for us is expanding, not just because of the technological advances, but our ability to influence architecture, our ability to get our products, application processors, modems, software that goes along with it, to be used in a different way. And we actually receive direct feedback from automakers to the point where we are now, like with yourselves, directly connected, even contractually. How do you see the landscape evolving, where the definition of a supplier is now turning into a partner? And what are your expectations as the complexity for you also evolves, because time to market is important, differentiation is important. How do you see these roles kind of evolving for you?
Yeah, so everything is getting essentially reformatted. So if we don't know where this journey is going to end in 10 years and how everything's going to look like. So I won't give you any sort of a false precision on that, but it's definitely evolving. So in terms of more ownership and more vertical integration, I think we're going to do more of that. We're going to vertically integrate and be more responsible for complete integration of the vehicle. Whereas traditional OEMs do a lot of assembly, but the supply chain is changing, especially on the electric-powered vehicles, where what used to be, the engine that you build, you actually don't build an engine now. You essentially getting, supplier to build your engine, and so we have to think completely differently. Who our suppliers are, how we manage suppliers, and create these sort of strategic partnerships rather than traditional supplier arrangements. And I think that's what's happening. So, for example, between Stellantis and yourselves, we looked very hard. Who are these strategic partners, suppliers that we can partner and really innovate together? Integrate better together from get-go, plan for the future together, so we can then deliver the kind of experiences that we believe our customers deserve. And so, working backwards from the customers in 10 years, what would be the type of mobility device the customers would buy from us? And who are the right partners to help us build those devices? And so, we're now quite selective in who to choose, how to partner. And we want to partner really, really deep and more strategically. And I think you're going to see a lot more strategic partnerships and a collaboration rather than traditional supplier type of relationships.
One of our experiences just in the last few years, as we have focused on infotainment quite a bit, is we now have programs that go anywhere from providing simple hardware and basic software and for the tier one to develop a solution, to where we have embedded software engineers at automakers, where they are essentially working as part of that team for 2 or 3 years to go develop a solution that will be launched together. So really, really big shift, and actually very broad spectrum of the approaches that are being taken. And it's really great to see that, because when you have to own differentiation, when you have to own what it is that customer experience needs to look like, it has to be done by ourselves. So we are in a way actually being pulled up by the engagements that we are in, because that's what is required if you have to go differentiate. Since we are at the 5G summit, I'm going to ask you some 5G questions and really what the meaning is of a car getting connected. I was in a meeting yesterday, and it was a fascinating conversation because the conversation was around the need for an automaker to set up private networks around infrastructure that they own, yard hole areas, dealer networks, charging stations, where the amount of data that is going back and forth between the car and the cloud, whether it's the OEM's cloud or for consumer purposes, is just becoming so massive that you can't really imagine building a platform that doesn't have ready access to the cloud, and then all of the complexity that comes along with it. What bands do you support? Which operator relationships do you have? Who are you paying for the airtime? How much are you paying? How long will the hardware in the car last? Will it outlive the technology, and how do you go upgrade that? How does a company like Stellantis, where you have a global footprint, so many different vehicles, so many tiers, how do you think about the connectivity problem at large?
In the cars?
Yeah, and the costs, of course.
And there's a lot of questions bundled in that question. So we'll try to sort of unpack it first. There's sort of a enterprise perspective or Stellantis perspective. There's this customer perspective. So we'll start first with the customer perspective. And I will walk back to what's important to us. I think from a customer perspective, right? So what does customer want to do today, and what the customer want to do 10 years from now in the car and at home and everywhere else, and how will these experiences evolve matters to us, because ultimately, the ones who deliver best mobility experience will sell more products and or more services or whatever there is in 10 years that people buy. And I think what customers do want to do today is, you all know, it's quite simple. You make phone calls in a car, you listen, you consume the content, and you get some digital services that are more than a content. So now everyone talks about autonomous type of driving services. But in the future, we really don't know how this all evolves. Now in Jeep, larger vehicles, we have a Fire TV, right? So it's all content play. People want to consume different content, video content. And to have a video content in a vehicle, I mean, it requires a lot of bandwidth, a lot of airtime. So then how do you pay for that? How do you manage those subscriptions, those sort of things? These are all the things that car companies haven't done in the past. And so we have to learn from traditional technology companies that have subscription services, that have built these experiences for the past 10 years that we haven't done, or 15 years. And so we're now starting to learn how the simple subscription, we did a lot of SXM and things like that, but it was like you give it to SXM and SXM does all for you and things like that. Now we're bringing that back because now we need to create a subscription for SXM, for Fire TV, for Spotify, for whatever it might be out there that customers want to consume in a vehicle. You need to sort of manage that without the friction to make it simple. How many of you tried to sign up for a connected car service in the past? And how was that experience? Not very good. I mean, I just tried to sign up, and when I received my vehicle, Jeep. I mean, it's like I got this like a literally 21 data element that I had to enter to sign up to a subscription. Imagine that if you actually have to do that in any of the consumer service out there, it'd be an absolute nightmare. Nobody would sign up for anything. And so now I have this goal, like a one-click done. It needs to happen everything in a one-click. So it's hard, it's almost unattainable, but it will happen. Those kind of things. But then, so that's from experience side. You need to just streamline that. Connectivity is the key element in order to deliver any kind of future experience. And so whether it's 4G, 5G, or whatever comes after that, it needs to be seamless. Obviously, it's almost ubiquitous right now, but it needs to be even more ubiquitous in the future. It needs to be very inexpensive for the model to work, because customers are paying today. You're paying connectivity at home. You're paying connectivity on the phone. You're paying connectivity in a car. I mean, when it will become unattainable for customers to pay for all that connectivity? So it needs to be designed in such a way that you can really, take advantage of all this, bandwidth and connectivity and airtime in a way that you don't hurt customers. Because if you look at, in a wealthy world, I mean, we can afford a lot of things, but we're coming to that point where cars are actually unaffordable. Like if you want to get all the amazing features, it's unaffordable. I mean, it's like 100,000 car to get who can, in Southern California, a lot of people can afford it, but move a little bit further, not really. I mean, you're still dealing with $25,000, $30,000 car. How much technology you need to pack to deliver that experience is a big question. So that needs to be also balanced. I think the cost of airtime and connectivity needs to be managed quite immensely well in order to deliver the kind of experience that we want to deliver.
Maybe I'll just add a few words for all of the Qualcomm partners that are in the room. I think what you hit upon in terms of the consumer ease of onboarding, that to me is actually a critical differentiator. And I think you guys are doing a lot of good work there, and I think you will solve that problem. I know you are well on your way to take care of that. I think the other piece that we run into a lot is really the disconnect between the life cycle of the car and the life cycle of the technology that enters into the car when you go into production. We have seen some very interesting ideas from certain customers where they're thinking about swappable modules, where you actually design separate almost the aspects of the vehicle where you're talking about antennas, talking about things that really can't be touched, versus electronics and capabilities that can be separated. And you have a physically connectorized module that you can swap out, put a new one in. at least have one more generation of technology. What's your view on that problem statement, I guess, in and of itself? Because cars are going to become dependent upon the technology that they are sold with. And as you know, there is a lot of change that is happening with 5G, how that is evolving, networks, their ability to support. Where does that problem statement fall for you?
It's a big debate, actually a big debate in my own team. The one thing that's true is that you buy a car today, it's outdated the same day you drive off the lot. And just, it's just not very good experience. You buy a phone and it's constantly evolving, for example. So the customers do expect evolution of the experience, more interesting things, newer things. And so that's just that. And we have to figure out a way to enable that. So everyone is working on over-the-air update, and you update applications, you update services. And so that's going to come, and everyone's going to do that. And it's just a matter of how well that, execution is going to happen between the car companies. And we at Stellantis, of course, we are doing that. And our next generation platform, we're launching in 24. It's going to be, it's wonderfully built, and obviously we're building it with you and Amazon and Foxconn. But the way we're designing it actually to run a lot of these services in the cloud, a lot of experience to run in the cloud. And so it will be evolving constantly. And so what you can change is the screen size and those sort of things. But you don't have to pack so much technology in a vehicle, because what you can do is do a lot of things from the cloud, yet deliver quite amazing experience. So for example, today in the TV, you're not really updating TV to get a better experience on Netflix, for example. Netflix does some changes, and all of a sudden you see a completely new interface, and that all happens somewhere on the server side on the Netflix. So that's how we think, that's how we're deploying our mental models into technology. So it's very radically different from, I think, what most of the other OEMs are doing. That way where you're actually packing a lot of stuff in a vehicle. And I think there is a certain things that need to be packed in a vehicle, but there's a lot more things that you can do in the cloud. Hence, the connectivity is critically important to us. Hence, we have this great relationship with you, because we want to solve that connectivity problem in order to maintain that ever fresh, evolving experience. So that's a promise we're going to give to our customers from all Stellantis brand, whether you're Alfa Romeo or Maserati or Jeep, you're always going to have fresh experience. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, in terms of like swappable modules, great question. Many times around we have attempted in automotive industry and other industries, in fact, to do swappable modules. It never worked. It never worked for all kinds of different reasons. The simple reasons, the pins that you decide to use today will change in 3-4 years. So whatever you do, USB 3, or whatever you decide to do, the physical connection, it's going to be outdated in 5 years. I guarantee you. I don't know what it is, but it will be outdated in 5 years. So somebody that needs to maintain, pin compatibility, needs to maintain hardware compatibility. And as the time progresses, it's expensive. It becomes more expensive. And so hence the swappable modules don't work. I'm yet to see actually good hard evidence that will be cheap, that will be better for the customer versus actually, in my view, pre-binding concept, where you actually pre-bind enough capacity where then you can use the software very effectively for next decade. I have PCs that are decade-olds, and they're amazing PCs. I still don't need, except, sort of emotional, this is a new thing I'm going to buy. There's no need to really change, because there's enough capacity in those things to operate. So I see, if we make all the right choices and right decisions today, I think we can create the vehicles that can be always fresh for the next 10 years, 15 years. But making those choices right now is expensive sometimes, because you have to pre-bind a lot of memory, a lot of compute, change the screen sizes and those sort of things. But if you do indeed want to deliver that ever-fresh experience, those are the things that we have to do.
You know, I've known you for a long time, and I think what you said just now about building just enough in the car to create the experience, to create the connection with the consumer is actually such an important comment, because there are so many easy ways for a car to simply relinquish control over to the phone, where an Android Auto or a CarPlay basically takes over the screen, and that is the real estate, that is the time, that is the relationship building that a car company can build with its consumers. So I think what you guys are doing for this next generation Stellar Brain program with us and with Amazon is really, I think, a start towards something that is a new way of engaging the customer.
Yeah, I believe so. I really truly believe so. And you hit it, on the head, nail on the head. Of course, if you like, I really believe, and it's a great training from my previous work, that ultimately you want to deliver amazing customer experience. So if you look at a car, drivability and all that stuff needs to be there, reliability, quality, but then the digital experience needs to be really refined and good for the customers and to enjoy the digital experience. And historically, we haven't done a good job. The car companies, hence it opened up this space for a CarPlay and Android Auto and what have you out there. And those are decent experiences. They're not bad experiences. In fact, they're very good. And most of the people actually today use it because it's better than what you get in the car. Now, if the experience in a car is better, the customers then wouldn't need to use it per se, and they would enjoy. But you have to really do something about it. You have to build better experience. So, Stellar Brain, Stellantis Brain platform and digital cabin should be, and it will be better than what you can get through a CarPlay or Android Auto. And so, people say, well, but I'm not going to use it. But just look at Tesla. I mean, Tesla doesn't support, Android Auto or a CarPlay, yet, people buy Tesla and they love it. And so there is just a good data point that you can actually build as good, if not better experiences, and definitely better experiences that's more meaningful for the customers than just plugging a phone to your cabin.
I agree completely. I mean, your example earlier of the television is the same thing, where you have an experience that is built by that OEM, and then you have content that is going to keep changing. I think it's very similar. So this takes me to kind of the next set of questions, which to me is really a very fascinating transition that is happening in the car, where the edge is intelligent, but the edge is also cloud native. The example that you cited where, the clients, if you can call them that, are very thin, are continuously updated. A lot of intelligence is in the cloud, and you can customize, you can adapt for what it is that the customer needs or the geography needs or the car model needs. And what we are seeing in terms of this transition playing out from our vantage point is that the SoCs that we are building for the next generation are becoming more and more heterogeneous, but also what we call mixed criticality, where we don't really differentiate anymore whether you're going to run an infotainment payload on it, or an ADAS payload on it, or an autonomous driving payload on it, because you have to really support every possible type of underlying hardware capability. And then the software will be highly adaptable and almost abstracted, where you don't know today what camera application you will need to be planning for in 2028, but you have to have the plumbing in place so that the software can adapt to that specific use case. What's your view on this kind of forward planning, forward architecture? For us, it's something that really requires a very deep understanding of the platforms that you're building, because you really have to kind of forecast in the future what all it is that you have to plan for.
I mean, the way you explain is exactly the way we think about it and the way we're building it, because it's much easier to do things in software than do it in hardware. Hardware is expensive. It gets outdated. You have to do a lot of custom things. So anything you can do in the software, you want to do in the software. And so when you can use a silicon to do 5 functions If there's enough power, enough memory in a silicon to do 5 functions, you do that because, it's just simpler to do that in software than to do it in hardware. And you can update. You can't really update hardware. It's very expensive to do that, but software you can. And so that is that sort of centralization that's happening at the moment, coming from like hundreds of ECUs to trying to get a couple of very beefy ECUs and then centralize lots of functions in those. And you mentioned the video. Essentially send the video through a network, an Ethernet network. Now where you can do a lot of things, whether it's for ADAS or autonomy or for the customer experiences. And absolutely, that's a path we're on. We're building. The Stellar Brain is designed in such a way, and then where you give us this sort of abstract, hardware abstraction layer on top of it is critically important. Of course, we need to be part of the building a hardware abstraction layer, so we have all the right primitive technologies upon which then we build specific applications, and then applications are integrated, of course. So this world of like having a radio, what traditionally is being called in automotive into this infotainment unit, you just drop it and it's independent from anything else, it's gone. It's all deeply connected, integrated into a vehicle, especially electric vehicles. Now, it is a part of the system, and you cannot just simply drop a radio inside the vehicle. So hence, doing it more on a silicon and doing it more on a one silicon and a lot more software driven it's must for us.
So let me go towards ADAS and autonomous driving. And to me, this is one of these problem statements that is probably one of the most complex problem statements. It is continuously evolving. I think the objective to build autonomous robotaxis that are driving us around and we don't have to we can sit in the back seat. That is, I think, for engineers, is a really fascinating technology challenge. But we've taken an approach and we've taken our time as we entered into this market because first of all, for us, we wanted to make sure as a company we were ready for something like driver assistance autonomous driving. It is a safety technology. It requires experience. It requires credibility with customers. But we also believe that it's going to happen over a long period of time. I think cars are already becoming safe, and I think there is a very interesting debate going on in the insurance industry in terms of the impact to traditional car insurance companies as cars become safer, and you're paying for those additional safety features. You fall into a certain demographic, and that demographic is expanding because more and more cars are becoming safer. That is then impacting what kind of premiums insurance companies can charge. So the impact of this technology beyond what we might see as technologists and engineers is actually very far-reaching. But my question for you is, you guys have a very broad set of vehicle lines that you support from entry to premium and super premium. The approach that we have taken is that we have to be able to aim at a sweet spot of the market. We have to aim at something in the 2025, 2026 timeframe, where we believe that the features that we will develop, full stack features, will meet the needs of a large enough percentage of consumers where they will find value from what we are building. And that will allow us to be able to scale down and also give us enough headroom in terms of how we will design it to scale up. But because there is so much of investment that has already gone into this space over the last decade or so, and if you look ahead, the cost, the footprint over which you have to deploy this is so massive. How does a company like Stellantis think about a problem statement like ADAS and autonomous driving? What do you want to do internally? Where do you want to partner? Where do you want to kind of say, no, this is something we're going to rely on our partners to take care of?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's autonomy and ADAS and all that is so wonderful topic to talk about and to build and to participate. And so I give you my perspective and give you Stellantis' perspective. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing that the systems are becoming smarter. I mean, it's just so wonderful how many lives are, saved, and it's gonna get by, let's say by 2025, the systems, the ADAS systems, are getting much better, and so it's a really amazing. It's like a belts and seat belts. When they got deployed in a vehicle, saved so many lives, and so this sort of a basic ADAS technology driven by the sensors, lane departure warnings, automated braking systems are wonderful, and I think they need to be deployed everywhere. Even the sort of a driver monitoring systems with a camera need to be deployed. I think you have a lot of regulations. They're going to be like in Europe now. You have NCAP, new regulation by 2025. There will be driver monitoring system. ADAS is going to be table stake for every vehicle. I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, the more you regulate something like that, it's gonna have a more opportunity for the prices to drop. So we're not against regulating safety at all. In fact, we think that's a wonderful thing for the customers because the vehicles are safer and save more life. I mean, I have a 15-year-old. She's gonna be driving now, in few months, and like I want everything that's possible in that vehicle. And my 22-year-old son, he loves these advanced systems, and I would think like he would probably hate it. He want to do lots of he used to have this sort of a rear-wheel drive vehicle and traction control. He would disable it. He would do all crazy things. But then when he goes on the road, he enables the traction. It's like, okay, he's a smart kid because they know it's safer, right? So a lot of these systems going to just get better and better and better. And you're absolutely right. We have to drop the prices. I think the more advanced systems, there's so much tech built in them that's unattainable. I mean, you have some of the advanced systems that cost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, to put it in a car, and who can afford that stuff? Yes, you can put it in Maserati and a big brands, but then you can't put it in a $20,000 vehicle. And the $20,000 vehicle needs the same system because the life is a life, and you want to protect that. So my goal is to have the most advanced system in every vehicle, but that will require our partnership to drop the price so we can have that sweet spot. And because life is a life, it doesn't matter if you're driving a $100,000 vehicle and $20,000 vehicle, it's the customer that you want to build great service for. And so that's my goal, the basic ADAS technology to be available on every single vehicle where we sell. So that's a hefty goal, and that's where we're going. But then there is this sort of advanced technology where if the customers really want to, hands-free, for example, on a freeway, not everyone needs the hands-free on a freeway, but if you want a hands-free on a freeway, or if you want automated parking, you push the button, you pay $9, for a month for automated parking, sure, there's a subscription you can subscribe to, for example. And for that is a different set of sensors, different software, and of course, those type of services will be then available for different market segments and so forth. So then it comes this sort of a autonomous, debate. I was once at a dinner with the CEO of a car company I will not mention, sitting. He was a Detroit-based car company, and he said he was very serious about by 2020 we're going to have autonomous vehicles on the road. And I had an autonomous team at the time in another company. I was looking. Like, there's no way it will happen because the human in a system problem is so immense for unconstrained autonomy. Just a human, that one little element, is so massive that I have no idea what next thing you're going to do right now. You go on a road and you have an autonomous vehicle and you have a human-driven vehicle. And, we look at each other across the intersections like, what are you doing? What I'm doing? Okay, so we negotiate that thing. And then, but imagine if there is an autonomous vehicle on the other side and a bunch of humans in a loop. And it's like, what will this thing do? I have no idea what it's going to do. So the human in a system problem is a big problem to solve. And that does not include any elements like rain, hail, snow, blah, 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 and it does not include regulation. So for that reason at the time, I said, this is just nuts, and I was like, no way it's going to happen. And they said, oh, it's happening. My team is telling me we already have it. They're driving in our prototype locations. Like, sure, you can run in prototype all day long. If all the systems are autonomous, you can actually make it happen today. It's actually quite easy. The computers negotiate with each other all the time, and it's super easy. But computers and a human to negotiate something, how many times did you clap on that keyboard like, this damn thing is stupid? So that is the essence of the issue for a fully unconstrained autonomy, and that's going to have to be somehow solved, and I don't see it at the moment. Constrained autonomy, you mentioned robotaxi, that's a much easier problem. I think it's going to come really soon. Robotaxis will come really, really soon, and people will figure out, and the service, when done nicely, is going to be delightful, just like Uber. You used to hate taxi, and all of a sudden you love Uber because it's so transparent, it's easy, and I think robotaxi is just another evolution of Uber-like service. It will come in the cities relatively fast. It will be something that will be meeting some sort of demand, unmet demand before, and it will probably take away from other services as well. So it's not zero-sum game. It will be a wonderful thing for the customers, and it will challenge car companies. How do we participate in that? Unconstrained autonomy, it's a long, difficult problem, in my opinion. However, we have teams dedicated on that. We need to learn. We need to be ready when certain elements of constraints we can apply. So, for example, autonomous driving on a freeway, that will happen because it's constrained. It's on the freeway. It's 55 miles, and it's not raining. Sure, it will happen. It will happen relatively fast. But then it starts raining, snowing, then you turn that off and hands on wheel type of thing. And so it will be a long evolution to open up constraint, if you will.
Yeah, our view is very similar. I think robotaxis in geofenced areas are certainly something very achievable, and it's more a business case because these are expensive platforms to build, but I think removing the human from a geofenced area for an autonomous use case, very doable. Where we find the complexity to overtake the business case is where you try to remove the human from an operation where the human is actually probably always going to be better than a computer. And if you apply economics to it, if you have to do it to meet a certain price point, then you're just trying to go solve a problem where you ask the question, do we really need to go solve this problem? What's the benefit that you are bringing? And I think there is still a big debate in terms of whether you're doing it because somebody else is doing it. I have a question for you, and I will again not name names, but safety in this environment, right? The definition of safety as autonomous driving has been introduced, especially in the US. Most traditional automakers are very careful in terms of how to introduce a new feature into a platform that you and I buy as a consumer, especially from a safety perspective, because it is highly regulated. There is, at the end of the day, the personal safety, injury, potentially death at stake. And then a number of new automakers have actually been aggressive in terms of introducing features that you would argue, hey, has this been tested? What's your view, given all of your time in automotive, and then what's kind of the Stellantis take on fairly complicated subject, actually?
As I mentioned earlier, safety is everything. You want to build, what we want to do is basic safety systems in every vehicle. That's our North Star. It needs to be saving life. It needs to be avoiding accidents. That's a goal, really. That's a main driver, behind building, the type of technology that we work with inside the vehicles. So it is critical that we get safety right. And in addition to that, for like a simplicity of use and also sort of a delightful experience that you could have in a vehicle, which today you don't. So I don't know how many of you have these autonomous or ADAS, advanced ADAS systems, where you try to change the lane and sort of the vehicle really grabs your steering wheel back and that kind of stuff. So there's a way for us to improve a lot on the HMI, or the human-machine interface. But safety is paramount. I don't think we'll be launching anytime systems claiming they can do X, Y, and Z that it cannot do. In fact, we're going to be on a quite opposite side of spectrum, saying that system, it's designed to do a lot more, but we're not going to make those claims. I think we're going to always be very, very conservative in terms of what system can do and how we talk about the system, because we don't want to give ever customers this sort of a perception they can do more that the system is capable of.
Great. Well, I think that is all the time that we have. Ned, any closing remarks?
I think, so it was great to be with you here today, but I think the industry, when industry needs to do a better job in delivering connectivity and create this sort of a ubiquitous but not crazy expensive connectivity, because customers are, tasked with, we have this like a crazy growth. Everyone want to grow. Everyone want to grow their share of wealth. But I think at a certain point, customers just can't afford it anymore. And so I think in certain markets we're approaching that. So I think industry has got to figure out how we solve this connectivity problem at a price point where the customers really can enjoy the kind of services that they can enjoy without breaking the bank, if you will. And I think this is a big challenge for you, for me, and for everyone that participates in that ecosystem. So I just want to leave you with that. We have a challenge on our hands that ultimately we're going to get to a point where customers are going to just stop buying stuff, because the amount of money that we're packing in these vehicles is just way too much. And it's going to be unaffordable. It turns out that vehicles is going to be like, we're going to have this sort of a segmentation in the society, which I'm really working hard to avoid, and to give the mobility and the freedom for mobility. So Stellantis stands for freedom of mobility for everyone. And so we are trying to very hard to stay with that, stick with that, and deliver and give the freedom of mobility worldwide to everyone without breaking their back financially.
Well, thank you, folks, for joining today. Automotive is clearly, I think, as you've heard from Cristiano earlier today, a very important part of our growth, and each of you are very important for us, because I think this is a long journey, complicated business, a lot of opportunity, as Ned described, and we really look forward to working with each of you. Ned, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Great to be here with you. Thank you.